was hype. It was, ridiculousness. And that was coming. The reason the reporters felt comfortable writing those silly stories is because engineers at Meta and Google and other firms were saying, we can't do it. There's no way he can do it. He did it. And I think the world really only believed it when, Jensen did that podcast, I think with, wasn't it with Gerstner?
It might have been with Gerstner.
Yeah, I think it was with Gerstner, and said what Elon did was superhuman. No one else could have done it. And I actually think you can argue that Elon doing that in a lot of ways kind of saved NVIDIA from a tough 6-month period when Blackwell was delayed, because everyone who was waiting for Blackwell and thought it was impossible to make 100,000 hoppers coherent rushed out and bought a lot of hoppers to try and do it themselves. Now we will see if someone else is able to do it. It was really, really hard. No one else thought it was possible. And as a result of that, Grok 3 is in training now on this giant Colossus supercomputer, the biggest in the world, 100,000 GPUs.
In Memphis. The old Electrolux factory. And they're putting a lot of energy in there, a lot of natural gas, a lot of
a dingy Electrolux factory.
Yeah.
With a lot of megapacks around it. And the city of Memphis is all in on supporting this.
Yeah.
Which is obviously smart for them. But you have not had a real test of scaling laws for training, arguably since GPT-4. And this will be the first test. And if scaling laws for training hold, Grok 3 should be a significant advance in the state of the art. That is an immensely, from like a Bayesian way to look at the world, that is like an immensely important data point. But if that card doesn't work, and I think it is going to work, I think Grok 3 is going to be really good. I should note that I am.
With consumers, you're involved.
My firm
in
is an
XAI.
investor in XAI.
Got it. Yeah, they've raised a tremendous amount of capital, a lot of it from the Middle East, and they're supposedly going to build Colossus to 1 million GPUs. Is the stated goal 10 times bigger than it is currently? There's been some debate back and forth, Freeberg, about, hey, are we hitting a wall here? Maybe you could explain the wall, either of you, to the audience. Yeah,
David.
Well, I'll let Gavin speak to the wall. I mean, Gavin, I think one of the questions also is, do we see an evolution if the kind of increment in performance relative to the investment in net kind of training compute resources declines? Do we start to see a shift in how the architecture of the systems are run? Meaning, like, do we start to build models of models, and that starts to resolve a higher level architecture that unlocks new performative capabilities? So
I would just say we're already building models of models. Almost every application startup I'm aware of is chaining models. You start with a cheap model, you check the cheap models work with a more expensive model. Lots of very clever things are being done. Every AI application company has what's called a router, so they can, swap out the underlying model if another one is better for the task at hand. As far as what the wall is, there's been a big debate that we were hitting a wall on these scaling laws, and that scaling laws were breaking down. And I just thought that was deeply silly, because no one had built a cluster bigger than 32,000 H100s, and nobody knew. It was a ridiculous debate. And there were, really smart people on both sides, but there's no new data. Grok 3 is the first new data point to support whether or not scaling laws are breaking or holding.